Welcome to BP Leadership Podcast, where real leaders are made. I'm your host, Bill Purvis. Today's episode, by the way, is the final episode of my conversation with Officer David Josey. And we've been in this series now called Back the Blue. We've been talking about his undercover life and things like that, and what it was like to live in seasons of his life away from his family, away from his friends, as he was working on cases and building cases, and we are really going to enjoy this broadcast today. In fact, it's lasted a lot longer because we've got so much content, had a lot of good feedback as well. And he's literally had, today we'll talk about some of the things we've discussed, like he's actually had people thanking him for putting him in jail when they got out because it changed their life. And then he'll tell you a funny story, I think that's hilarious, about a guy that he busted. And you know how you get to rat on somebody if you want to get your charges reduced, and the guy ratted on his own mother. So you're going to learn a lot of interesting stuff today with David. He's my friend, and I've been blessed to have him here, as I know you will be. So I'm looking forward to hearing today's podcast with David Josey. Let's get started. Yeah. Now, have you ever had anybody that ever got out that said afterwards, that they got their life straight, that you see that they're doing well since then?
Yeah, I've met several, and and for example, in a restaurant, and actually my partner and I were off, and this goes back to the whole family thing.
Yeah.
It's like family. So even when you're off work, you and you're best friends and you're like brothers.
Yeah, that's right.
And so you do stuff together when you're off. And so we'd go eat. We were eating lunch, and old boy came around and hey, hey, you remember me? I said, no, should I? Yeah, you should. You put me in prison. You remember me? And I'm going, all right, if I put you in prison, evidently you remember me, but no, I'm sorry.
Right.
And he said, well, you ain't scared being here with me? And I said, no, I ain't scared.
Yeah.
I said, how about you?
Yeah.
And so then he goes, I'm glad I went to prison.
How about that?
I am glad.
Wow.
Thank you. And I've put all that behind me now. And then I'm going, yeah, sure you have.
Yeah.
And I'm telling him, I said, yeah, sure you have. Are you sure you put this behind you? They said, no, I ain't going to prison again.
Wow.
I'm done with that.
Yeah. How about that?
I was like, all right, man. I said, if you can stay out,
yeah,
find you a good job,
that's
get
right,
a good life going, then
that's
more
right,
power to you.
That's right. Yeah. Now let me ask you this: What would you say to somebody that was wanting to get in law enforcement? And I know there's that danger side, but there's that adrenaline side, and there's the good side. There's the part that you're making a huge difference. If you were recruiting for that, what would you say to somebody if you were talking to somebody they were looking at? I'm thinking about going into it.
How would you like to have a family of over 300 people?
Wow.
And 300 people that have your back. Yeah. And we take care of each other. And it's a good life. Yeah. And you start off in patrol, but you work your way, in which direction you want to work. And because, like I said, my whole growing up as a kid watching Miami Vice, I loved Miami Vice.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'd like to do that.
Right.
Like to do that. And so some of the top people that were in Metro that were real popular, and I got to know. Yeah. And so I'm like, that's where I want to go. Yeah. And that's where I ended up.
Yeah. That'd be a good word, though, to somebody. If somebody was looking at it, because what you did was you sold it on the good, the family, and all the other things, the benefits.
Oh, and it is. The benefits good, and the retirement. If you stay as long as I stay, then I'll have the retirement coming in.
That's right.
So it works out. It works good.
And you got how many more years before you retire?
Actually, I can go now. As soon as you give me a job here.
All right. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Probably a year or two.
Okay.
Probably.
Wow. Gosh.
Yeah.
That is that. You don't realize. I guess you get into it and then you look back one day and say, "Man, where did the years go?"
Oh, it does. It flies by.
I know. But you can see all the changes. I know this. Our area, in this area over here, we're definitely blessed because the law enforcement in this area really is at a different level, and they're good. There's not enough of them, but they're really fantastic. And the ones, every one of them I know, are just as good as you can trust them with your life.
And they are. And 99.9% of the police officers will give you the shirt off the back if you need it.
Yeah,
so they are good.
It's probably like with police, the same thing it is with everybody else, and even with pastors. If they're a bad cop, they get all the attention and recognition, and people and they notice them.
Yeah,
and 99% of them are as good as can be, but that 1% over there gets them all labeled.
Yeah, and that could be on the other side of the United States.
Yeah.
And we hear about it.
Yeah.
All y'all dirty.
Yeah, I imagine.
So in Arizona.
Yeah.
So what he did.
That's right.
Yeah. That's one that messed up.
That's right.
That ain't all of us.
Yeah, and they act like you're supposed to answer for him when you're as disgusted with his behavior as they are.
Exactly.
I know.
Exactly. And that's the sad part of times now is a lot of people targeting police officers.
I know. I know.
We just had that one. Was that New Jersey?
Yes, in New Jersey.
That group that
yes.
I know. Killed a police officer because he was a police officer.
Yep. I think that's one of the. My thing is that's one of the last signs that a society is falling apart. When they've already rejected God, they've already rejected their family, and their religion and Christianity and everything else. And they've just rejected almost everything. And there's tons of views with abortion and everything else. But then there comes a time they say, okay, we don't want any law, we don't want any restraints, and we're opposed to law enforcement. And I feel like that's kind of like the last line that they've crossed all the rest of them. That's about the last thing, because where do you go from there?
Exactly.
And it's yeah.
Well, that couple ended up getting killed, so I believe I don't know if that's what they actually wanted to put themselves out.
I know. It's sad to me to see good officers who are doing nothing but just doing their job, and then they're taken out by somebody they've not done anything. They didn't even have a chance to prepare themselves.
Exactly.
And that's
several that were sitting in their cars at night, at red lights, or sitting, working on a report in the car.
I know.
And these stupid people come up and shoot them through the window.
That's right. Their attitude, and then on top of that, some of the same people that have no regards for human life there with policemen are the same ones that want to call the police and want them at their house as soon as something goes wrong. We heard a noise, somebody's breaking in. We need a policeman. Where y'all at? Hurry up! And I'm thinking you're the same ones as trashing them every time you turn around, and now all of a sudden you want one. And so I know that would be
the next time somebody breaks in your house, don't call 911, call a crackhead.
That's it. That's right. Yeah, and that's
our department here is good. I'm proud of them, and like I said, they do a good job.
Yeah, and in Columbus, you've got the fire department, and you've got the sheriff's office, and then you have the marshals too. I think.
Yeah, yes.
But I think the sheriff's department, they don't deal with the same thing though, do they?
Not really. Now they have a detective unit.
Okay.
And they do some investigation work.
Mm-hmm.
And at nighttime, the sheriff's deputies actually get out and patrol.
Mm-hmm.
And their main thing is doing the warrants.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. And now let me ask you this: on some of those times when you would, if you busted somebody and then they turned in somebody above them, and then if they turned in somebody, about how long is that chain gone before? Have you ever seen it just keep on going? You say, man, before it's over, we've got a set of dominoes here.
And you drag it as far and high as you can get it. It's like a ladder.
Really?
One step at a time. What can you do? What can you do? What can you do?
Right.
And because you're wanting to get the top guy.
Yeah. And so you can keep going all the way back. That's funny, because you'd think after a while somebody would just say, no, I'm not giving it up. But if they just keep giving it up, you say, man, that one bust just led to about 15 different people on the radar. Anyway,
it goes back to the boy that did his mama.
Yeah, I know. And I think I know that boy, which is worse.
You do.
I do. Yeah, and I know his mama.
Yeah, you do.
And I would have never thought his mama. I knew she was cranked up. I didn't know she was on meth. But I swear, And then I guess she got her own boy on it too. So, or knew he was doing it.
Well, I think we understand it was a family affair for the money.
Yeah.
To start with, which he was doing it, but got her into it and the money.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yep.
So is there that much money in it?
It doesn't last.
It doesn't last, right?
No, it doesn't last. I mean, it's not a steady income.
Yeah.
For that level of the local dope dealers.
Right.
And it'll last a little while, and they're either in jail and that's, a lot of our murders or drug dealers killing drug dealers.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And we've had a lot of that lately.
Yes,
we've had a lot of gangs and young kids in gangs.
It is. And that goes back to what you were saying, the way times are going, that they don't care.
I know.
And, there's a lot of people nowadays just assume, kill somebody and go to prison. Okay, I'll go to prison.
Yeah. I listened to a guy's story the other day. I wish I could remember his name. I listened to this guy's story. His name was Kalen Moore. And I encourage everybody to look it up, Google it, whatever. But the kid, he changed his life when he was living in Compton. And he said, I was hanging out with two other friends, and I asked, they were talking, they were like 13, and one of them said, when I get to be 16, I'm going to kill somebody and get in prison, and I'm going to join the Bloods. And the other one said, yeah, I'm going to do this crime, and I'm going to go to prison, and I'm going to be a part of the Crips. And he said, I'm sitting there thinking, that's the choice? He said, my father's already in prison, and now my two best friends over here talking about they're going to be in the Crips or the Bloods when they're in prison. And he went out and literally changed his life, became an Oxford graduate, played college football, just had a story that was amazing. But he told about how that as a child there in Compton, that was the only dream they had, was when they got older, they were going to go to prison and join a gang. And we just, some of us don't even think that way.
Exactly. Yeah. Crazy.
So I guess for that kind of lifestyle, it would be,
I met a guy in Puerto Rico, of all places, that he supposedly was one of the number one drug dealers in Puerto Rico, that area,
right?
U.S. Virgin Islands, and he got caught, and near-death experience to him, and he did go to prison. But when he got out, and he's been out for 10, 15 years.
Right.
And when he got out, and now he is an ordained preacher, and his thing is he hits the streets and goes to the drug areas and tries to pull these people away from drugs.
Yeah, that's cool. There was a guy, I don't know if you know, Teen Challenge was started that way. A guy named David Wilkerson went up to New York City and started going to the gangs and reaching the gangs. And as a result of that, he reached a guy named Nicky Cruz, who had been the head of one of the major gangs there. And Nicky Cruz came to kill him and pulled out a switchblade on him. And somehow in the conversation, Nicky laid the switchblade down and started talking to him, and he gave his life to God. So he went back to the gang and got the gang to start coming to church and got David to start preaching. And then they built a church and had all the other gangs coming, and they wrote a book called The Cross and the Switchblade. But that was this one guy that went to New York City and said, I'm going to go meet the heads of the gangs. And he asked him who the meanest was, and the meanest was Nicky Cruz at that time. And if you ever hear Nicky's testimony, I've heard him now, he's like in his 70s. But he talks about how that he said, I was so hardened and I was so caught up in my lifestyle, it was all I ever knew. And he said, and he was this guy came on our turf, and he's not selling drugs, but he's talking about God. And he says, I'm going to go run him off. And he says, the more I'm talking to him, the more he's telling about what I need. And so his story is really crazy. And he's been saved like 30 years now and all that.
Oh, that's cool.
But that was how Teen Challenge, the national organization, got started.
That's all right.
Got started one guy going to the gangs. And they even had a night one time where they had the Bloods, the Crips, and all the gangs meet in New York and not fight. And somehow that was a big, big moment, And so we all got there and talked, and so the police were even shocked at that. But it was really the gospel that kind of did the change for a lot of them. And so,
that's cool.
Yeah, well, David, you've been, for me, both a friend for years and a protector, and I couldn't ask anybody better. And
Thank you.
I'm always safe when I'm with you, and always my family has been, and the church has always been. The security you provide for us has been fabulous. But I've always noticed, I knew your story, and I want to get what I could get on this podcast that wouldn't, because I know you get cases still pending, and you got other stuff and other stuff, without revealing a lot, but just to have the chance to get to know some, and I look forward. I know these listeners that we get, they'll like hearing about some of the things that go on behind the scenes, and hopefully it'll make them have a new regard and a real appreciation for Back in the Blue. And so, that's my hope.
All right, well, that is part 4 of Bill's conversation with David Josey in our Back the Blue series here on the BP Leadership Podcast. And in our next episode, we're going to keep this series going strong with Officers Bill and Dawn Tuning. Fantastic podcast with some great stories, just like David had to share about their experience and their time on the police force. So you'll get to hear some of that, as well as some situations that went wrong quick and a rookie mistake that Bill Tuning made early on in his career that really could have cost him. So I hope you're ready, because it is fantastic stuff. So make sure you do not miss that by hitting the subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button, whatever podcast platform you're on, so that you can stay notified when our upcoming episodes air, as well as if you're on YouTube, hit the bell so that you can get notified and stay in the loop as well. Well, like I said, glad you guys tuned in for this one. Make sure you're ready for our next episode coming soon. And as always, remember that this is where real leaders are made. See y'all next time.